The May 2nd, 2023 Purchasing Committee will come to order. Carla, call the roll, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
Commissioner McAdoo.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd. Commissioner Gooch.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner P.
Here.
Chairman.
Yes, here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We want to approve the minutes. Mr. Vice Chair, have you had a chance to review the minutes?
I have, and I found them in order, and I'll make a motion to approve them.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. Now we're under advisement for RFP Property and Casualty Insurance 2324. I think it's you, isn't it, Mr. Elam?
Janet, you want to come on up? Janet Cook with CCMSI. You want to go over your exhibit?
Sure. Okay, the first page of the exhibit, we're just kind of looking at the exposures, comparing, you'll see to the left in that first column, the property, the county building values, the expiring was at $305,803,952. The renewal quote is at $357,088,447. So we've got a difference there of $51,284,495. If you look at the county contents value, you'll see the expiring at $53,138,769. The renewal at $56,274,863. There's a difference there of $3,136,094. Then we get to the schools on the building values. Their expiring was $1,393,106,895 compared to the renewal at $1,603,385,759. So we've got a $210,278,864 difference there. When you look at the school contents values, the expiring was $94,405,772. The renewal is at $110,519,300. So we have a $16,113,528 difference there. Then we get into the vehicles, specific amounts of insurance. This is per the vehicle schedule. The expiring values were at $45,002,417. The renewal is at $49,467,200. So about a $4.464783 difference there. So when you look at the expiring versus the renewal, the total difference there is $285,277,764. So
Are these replacement values?
these are agreed values. The second page just goes
Just a
in.
minute.
Sure.
Let's talk about agreed values.
Okay.
Who agreed to these values?
I guess Mr. Shoup's office, is that correct, did the surveys on the buildings themselves.
So, do you have like a property, or is that what you do as a property evaluation? You've got somebody that'll actually do that on each building?
We run it through a program that takes contracts of local construction of similar, like a school, high school, middle school, whatever, and it assigns values per square foot of different kinds of buildings that, you know, you can add for
Jerry,
different quality of.
you want to come on up?
Right, sure.
Well, my main concern about asking you that is can we turn around and the tornado, instead of hitting downtown Reedville, hit one of our high schools or one of our complexes like Stewart's Creek over there, it wiped out 2 or 3 schools. We're going to have the money in our insurance to cover rebuilding those schools.
The corollary to that question, thank you, Commissioner, is to what extent what percentage of agreed is replacement or vice versa? What's the differential? Because I would think this insurance, we want to know what the potential replacement cost would be, not the agreed value. If the agreed value doesn't replace the facility, we've kind of dug ourselves a bit of a hole. I think that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Right, so the program we use determines what Blackman High School would cost to rebuild if a tornado destroyed it. That's what every report we have on every building you have tells us what that number would be. Now, you have a policy limit of 250 million.
That's great.
So if you hit a complex of high school, like if you've got high school, middle school, all sitting in one spot and a tornado destroys them all, then yes, you could possibly run, but to get a higher limit, you're looking at ridiculous
Yeah.
premiums.
Would that be on one
You can
instance?
even
For
buy it.
instance, you might have a storm surge come through where you have a tornado hitting Eagleville. Is that one instance and it hitting Eagleville and that's a second instance, or is that one instance?
It'd be one occurrence. If it's all in the same, if it's the same tornado that's just kind of going through the
And
area,
if it's a second tornado, it would be two incidents?
could
and
be.
That would be
yeah,
determined
we'd
by the,
consider that.
So to follow up with Commissioner P's question, then if the agreed value, let's just hypothetically say Blackman High School, the agreed value is 150 million, just to say, and it is totally destroyed. But the replacement value, because of inflation and other circumstances, comes in to replace that high school is actually 175 million. How do we reconcile the difference with our policy?
So the replacement cost that I give you is what it should cost given our current situation of costs for
Well,
to rebuild buildings.
and we do this on an annual
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, every year
Now,
we do this.
what you get into, sometimes people don't do it on an annual basis. And I think that's what you're gonna see, this cost increase here, is that it was across the board 13 point what, percent increase in value.
Oh, what, 13?
Every, almost 14, but it was every, on the average, every piece of property, if you took that Rutherford County owns, was an increase in value of about 13.5, 4, 5, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you didn't increase it, and to your point, if you didn't increase it and you left it at the value it was last year, and then you have inflation, then you definitely would not have enough. And if you didn't increase it the next year, you would be even further behind as far as your pricing.
All I want to know is if the agreed value on a particular structure is X and the actual replacement cost is Y, who pays the delta?
It would be the county.
Yeah, it would be the county.
Okay, so then we have improperly assessed what the agreed value is, correct? Because basically it's the replacement value, which is I think what you and I are getting to.
right.
You wanna explain
And he's
that?
saying
Yeah.
that's the replacement value, if I'm understanding you.
Yeah, that's,
correctly.
right,
Yes.
that's exactly what he's saying.
But that's today. If
Yes.
prices go
Right.
up on everything and it costs more to build
Yeah.
before the end of the year, then we're gonna have to eat it.
But we do that every year.
Okay.
Right, we
Right.
are looking at it
Right.
every year.
My concern isn't the inflationary costs. I mean, that you can't control for. My concern is that the agreed value and the replacement value are close enough where to the county, it's not a significant financial liability.
Yes.
That's my concern, is that delta between agreed and replacement, that they're close enough where that's not a liability to the county.
I will let her speak to the actual coverage, but just to let you know how you sit among everybody else in the business, across the commercial insurance market, there are estimates that just on average, across the board, people are 20 to 30% underinsured because every year they just add 3% or 4% or whatever. And so right now, one of the big problems in the insurance business is they don't know how much they have sitting out there. Because, I mean, not to blow my own horn, but because you hire me to do this, you're not in that situation. We know how much you have.
Okay.
And it is reevaluated every year, which puts you above the average on that. Now,
Because that is
It closes that gap.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what inflation is going to be 6 months, 9 months from now, but it does close the gap as close as you can get it
especially looking at it every single year.
every single year.
Yeah,
30 years ago, your statement may not have made a hill of beans worth of difference to Rutherford County because of our size and what we had. But today, it makes a hill of beans worth of difference.
Oh, absolutely.
And some of those counties that are undervaluated, it probably doesn't make a big difference to them simply because of,
Well, it did to Wilson County.
I understand that. But Wilson County's similar to Rutherford County. But you get someone up in I don't know,
Kevin. Yeah.
someplace like that, it probably doesn't make as big a difference to them from a budget perspective as it does to us.
And also let me point out, as far as when you're looking at insurance from a risk standpoint, as it was already pointed out, when you have so many buildings in a cluster, and you take your high schools, but I mean, you just take the square itself, you could have a real hard hit, as Commissioner P was talking about. When it drops down, if you could have 319 Maple, you could have Judicial Building and Health Department all in one whack. And that's why when you go into the rural counties, a tornado can sit down and it may just hit a high school and not hit anything else. And that makes us a little more, because we have property in, so clustered together, it makes us more of a risk.
In Reederville, if that tornado was 200 yards to the north of where it hit, wouldn't have had any damage. It was an open field.
Well, it also went over the top of Whitworth Buchanan. It went over the top of it. Good friend of ours lives out there, so it went right over the top of it.
I can't
Anyway,
remember.
I didn't mean to belabor the point, but I needed an understanding of agreed, thank you, Commissioner, agreed and replacement, and you're telling me they're essentially one and the same, correct?
We essentially agreed to the replacement cost.
That's right.
Right,
Yeah.
Which,
correct.
to my point, okay.
Today.
Yes,
Thank you.
today, correct.
If there are no questions, we can continue. My apologies for
Oh,
the
no,
interruption.
that's fine. So the next exhibit is going over the actual expiring quote. If you recall, your expiring property was with Liberty Mutual at a $250 million retention. $250 million limit with a retention of $100,000. You'll see their total insured values at the $1.8 billion, and the premium was at $1,121,989. Liberty Mutual did not offer renewal terms. They actually had sent out a non-renewal notice prior to the bid openings, and then after the bid openings, they did come back and quoted a $10 million limit, which is not anywhere close to what the county needs. And so Travelers was the only one that was willing to entertain a quote. We did shop this with 31 different markets, and Travelers was the only one that actually quoted. Y'all were actually insured with Travelers years ago. They did quote the $250 million limit with the same $100,000 retention. The total insured values at $2,134,998,106. Their premium $2,392,402.
So you're telling me we saw an increase, over double increase in the premium?
Yes.
And while we're talking about property, can I mention just a couple of things here? This quote does not include it doesn't include the Las Casas building, because it will not be done by the time it's supposed to be done, like I
You're
think.
talking about the public safety building?
Public safety building, it won't be done till like July, so it's not in here.
Walker Hill wouldn't be in there either then?
Walter Hill's not in here either. They'll be coming on in next year's budget. What is in here are the three other buildings, which you have, Blackman, One Stop, Rockville, and Kittrell are all in here. But another thing that's not in here, I think, when I was looking at the minutes to the Health and Ed, is the $1 million building on Church Street. So it's not that, because we don't know what the building cost is. I mean, you don't want to do 1.1 because that's not actual
Right.
true building cost. So it's not in here, so this number will most
That's gonna
likely.
be that little magnet school, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
814 South
Yeah.
Church Street, I believe,
Yeah.
that was voted on,
Yeah.
coming to budget. It's not in this
Okay.
quote, so that would be an additional money. Because we just found out about it in the last, after this bid's already been
Yeah.
done and opened.
That's understood. We did too.
Okay, going to the next exhibit goes into the casualty coverages. You'll see there to the left, the first column, It's going over the general liability, public officials liability, employment practices liability, educators legal, auto liability, physical damage, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and crime coverage, and then your law enforcement liability, excess liability, and your surety bond. Your current carrier on the casualty lines is Princeton. That is actually who we're quoting the renewal with as well. The limits on that, it's $5 million, same retention at $500,000 retention. Nothing has changed there. You will see the expiring premium in the kind of the fifth column at $748,576. You'll see the renewal premium at $839,686. The auto physical damage expiring limit was $975,000 with the $25,000 deductible. That was Princeton. We did also get an optional quote from Hanover. That is in that third to last column with a $25 million limit on the auto physical damage with the $25,000 retention. So that you'll see the premium there is included for Princeton at the $975,000 limit. If you wanted to look at the Hanover at the $25 million limit, the premium is $109,916. Dropping on down, if you look at the crime coverage, it's with Travelers, $500,000, $250,000 retention was expiring, same terms and conditions. The expiring premium was $5,642. The renewal premium is $5,658. Law enforcement is with Greenwich, $2 million limit at $500,000 retention, $437,260 is expiring. Same limits and retention. The renewal premium is $458,615. The excess liability, which goes over the top of the law enforcement, is $3 million. That brings that up to a $5 million limit. And same terms and conditions. The expiring was $175,050, and the renewal is $210,960. The surety bond is with Safety National, it's written in there, and that is a continuous bond, and the premium is the same as expiring at $5,000.
All these carriers, for instance, starting at the top of that list, for instance, were there other carriers that bid on that same general liability that's under Princeton there?
There were not, no.
And how far do y'all reach out to?
Yeah, we took it, like I said, to 31 different markets. Most of them declined because of this general size of the county. Some of them would decline because of the law enforcement exposure. A lot of the carriers don't like the law enforcement. Of course, the law enforcement is broken out here in a separate policy, but a lot of them is just higher than their appetite.
So what, if the size of the county is a mitigating factor in getting people or carriers to respond, what in the Sam Hill or larger counties doing that?
Yeah, a lot of times they're carrying higher retentions or going basically bare, or self-insured, totally self-insured.
Have we looked at that?
We've looked at it, yes.
That's all I need to know.
It's a,
Scary.
It's a bear.
it's a
big
bear. It is. It is. And when you go self-insured on a lot of different things, and you open yourself up to a combination of things happening, OJI,
Well, no, I get that, but
If you're-
again, I'm reading into Commissioner P's remarks here that when we're only getting one respondent, in many respects, we're held captive to that respondent in a non-competitive market, and that's not to our financial advantage. I think that's what you're insinuating.
That's exactly
So-
what I was.
Sure.
So in the Princeton last year, we did have, I think, who was it? Not Chubbs, but Brett. Yeah, they had Brett, and they were at 350, and Princeton was at 500,000. So we raised the retention. It was voted on by the commission to raise the retention by up to 500,000 because it was a cheaper premium. Because, I mean, you're absorbing more risk.
So back to the size of the county for just a second. If the size of the county is a mitigating factor because of the exposure of the carrier to the risk, is that an accurate statement? Then is it possible, obviously not today, that we could break up the county so that we help them mitigate the risk so we can get more competitive responses? You see what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
In other
Usually.
words, let's just for grins and giggles, could we pull the schools out as a separate piece for them to bid on as opposed to other Rutherford County buildings? So now we have two different policies trying to do the same thing, but we lower the overall risk, thereby getting more people to respond. Is something like that possible?
Absolutely. You could do that, and like Mr. Elam said, raise retentions. Definitely look at that.
I forgot who it was, but somebody was like at 10 million retention, and I'm like, that's pretty solid.
At a later date, and I think it'd be a good idea for us to talk about that, not today, honestly, because we're trying to get this approved and get it out of here because we got to get coverage. But I'm back to Commissioner P's point of, we're not acting in the best financial interest of the county unless we're getting competitive bids. And that's, if that's what you're saying, I completely agree. And I want to know how we as a body, as a committee can facilitate that. That's all I mean to say.
Yeah. Could I also point out that after receiving these, I met with Michael Smith, because the Wilson County has the Tennessee Risk Management Trust. They were in it. He knew Tom Montgomery really well and made a phone call. And, I don't have an email that basically says, but in their conversation, he looked at it and he said, I can't touch it. I can't touch that quote himself. So, I mean, that's the Tennessee pool. So,
Okay.
Well, I would ask that y'all take this to the insurance committee to speak along the lines of what the mayor suggested about breaking these up. And I have a question about that now. My understanding was that the schools are separated already as far as ownership there. Didn't the state legislature deem that the schools' property are under the schools now instead of the commission?
I hope not.
I'm not dealing with misconception there, but.
No,
Okay, so that's why we're still seeing this, what the insurance policy.
we still seeing that, it's ours.
Okay, well, I'm laboring under a misconception there on how our property is. But we'll talk some more about that.
Yeah, indeed.
it is divided up. The premiums are divided up based on what the percentages the schools pay their part. Autos, property.
Now, wait a minute, back up, you're saying the schools paying their part.
I understand it's all a big pot.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, so my assumption was right, because they are paying for the insurance on those buildings.
They do, yes.
Okay,
So
that's,
when we take the premiums, then it's allocated out, and I think it's a little odd combination of things, but it's like solid waste takes a part of it, and then highway takes part of it, and then the schools take the lion's share of it, and it's allocated whatever that percentage of the values are here. Same thing with autos. Who has the autos? That percentage is divided up.
well, I know when that changed, we took a lower hit from the county as far as paying those fees. So, all right.
Moving on to the next exhibit. This is Provident Access. This is the policy for the Rutherford County firefighters, emergency responders. The current program is at a 50,000 limit. You can kind of see the breakdown. I won't go through each and every one of those, but the expiring premium was at $3,132. The renewal premium is at $4,182, and you'll see down at the very bottom of the page they did also quote optional limits at $75,000, and you'll see the premium there for that quote, and then at $100,000 they quoted the limit. And I think when the program first started it was at 25, and years back that was increased to the 50,000 limit. The next exhibit is Admiral Insurance Company proposal. This is for the medical malpractice for the general dentist, and the professional liability is at 1 million. Each claim 3 million aggregate. That was the exact same as for expiring. The retention or deductible at 2,500. That was the same. The premium is identical from the renewal premium to expiring at 6,245.
This is the dentist at the state health department. That's where they're housed.
Okay, the next one is the cyber liability. Your current carrier on that is Cowbell. You'll see in that second column there, the expiring limit was 1 million with a 100,000 retention, with the expiring premium at 68,596. Cowbell quoted the renewal at 1 million, 100,000 retention, premium at 73,919. We also received a quote from Homeland Insurance Company with 1 million limits and a 250,000 retention for 55,000 in premium. We also received quotes from Homesite Insurance Company. They quoted a primary, you'll see, which is a 5 million limit with a 250,000 retention at a premium of 149,342.94. Then they also quoted a 5 million excess that would sit on top of that primary. That would make the total limits at a 10 million limit if you chose to go that route. And that premium is 130,540.22. We also got a quote from Crum and Forster at a 5 million per occurrence with a 5 million aggregate. That retention is 250,000 and the premium is 163.
Is there a reason why Homeland and Homesite and Crum and Forster could not give us a quote with the 100,000 retention?
Yeah,
Or vice versa?
they were not interested in going down that low. We did ask for that, and they knew that that's what the expiring was, but they were not interested in entertaining that.
Okay.
And the last page is just the recommendation and what was presented to the insurance committee. So you'll see in that far column to the right there, the recommendation was travelers on the property at the 2,382,402. And then you have Princeton with the package policy, the casualty lines, the Hanover quote on the auto, on the excess auto. Then you have Travelers on the crime portion. Homeland is what they recommended on the cyber liability as opposed to Cowbell. And then the dental is with Admiral, and the firefighters program with Provident, and then the workers' comp surety bond with Safety National.
Mr. Vice Chair, I think what we probably need to do, you can coach me, you and Jeff can, but I think we probably need to vote on these individually, do we not?
Insurance committee voted on them individually.
It was a whole, as a whole.
Yeah, whole.
Then Michael
It
made
was
the.
one vote?
Yeah.
Can we do one vote, or we do need to do it separately?
I think we can do either one, but I believe that we can do it as a whole vote.
Okay.
But, I mean, if the committee feels.
I'm at the will of the committee on this one.
individually,
I just want to make sure we do it right, so it doesn't have to come back.
Insurance.
We did.
If that's what the insurance committee did,
Yeah.
I remember
We
all
did
the
hold it.
discussion individually.
Yeah, we
And I thought we
discussed.
voted individually, but maybe we did the whole thing together.
We
Is that what I
discussed
said?
it.
Or,
We voted
or
on it.
each one of these, the lowest, or were there some that were higher that was chosen and for a particular reason if they are? I'd like to hear that.
So on the cyber liability insurance, let me find it, the committee voted to go to Homeland with a retention of 250. That was, the motion was made by Michael Smith and seconded, and I think it was like a 10-2 vote to move to Homeland Insurance Company. And, you know, Michael's just doing the math, and he just says, if you don't have a claim in 5 years, you've saved the money. I think 5 or 6 years. But we presently are with Cowbell for 100,000 retention, but it's about $18,000 more.
Okay.
That was the recommendation coming from insurance committee, was to move to Homeland Insurance.
It was heavily influenced by Michael's.
It was. I didn't. Yes, it was. I felt like it was my opinion, but yes, because he was just saying it's better to save money.
But that's, to be clear, that's just a recommendation from the insurance committee. It's this committee that makes the purchasing decision, correct?
Yes.
And then the full commission confirms it.
That's correct.
Or,
Budget now.
Budget, then full commission, that's correct. So that's a recommendation, not a, so this committee can make its own decision.
This has been talked about.
Then now's the time to discuss it if we want to do that, extend that.
It's been talked about, and if the committee wants to do it one at a time, I'm all for that. But the motion would be to accept the insurance recommendation in full, complete.
Okay, so without objection, we're going to vote on all these at once. If there is no objection, then we will vote on all of it at once. And so now Chairman Phillips has a motion to accept all these
And forward on the budget.
and forward on to budget. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, what we need now is a roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner P,
yes.
Chairman,
Yes.
How about me?
Commissioner Phillips.
Save the best for last. Come on, man.
Just going down the list.
Okay, that's RFP, property and casualty insurance. I have no other business. Is there any other business?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chair. When you bring this to budget, on this document here, could I'm not seeing the name of the insurance company, just the figures. Can that be populated?
Is it all out to the right of the figures?
I see it now. I see it.
I can
No,
make that
no,
a little
you,
clear.
I'm sorry.
I should have gavelled you out of order.
I think you should have.
We're adjourned.
Not only,